الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
The moon has been our friendly neighbor in the sky for billions of years. It's guided us home, kept us on time, protected us, propelled us into space, and it's hard to fathom what we would do without it, but for the sake of science, let's try to envision a moonless world. What would happen to Earth? Would humans still exist? And what would life be like? So, how exactly did we get a moon in the first place? Scientists believe it started off with a splash. The giant impact hypothesis, also known as the Big Splash, theorizes that a Mars-sized celestial object named Theia came crashing into Earth 4.5 billion years ago, tossing vaporized particles of Earth's crust into space.
This debris coalesced into a ball, and the moon was formed. Just 14,000 miles away from the early Earth. This was the closest point it could have been. Any closer, and gravity would have pulled the debris crashing back to Earth, and there'd be no moon.
And lucky for us, our moon's orbit and gravitational pull tilt the Earth 23.4 degrees, creating tidal bulges that help slow the rotation of our planet just enough for life to safely exist.
Our moon is on the move. Each year it drifts an estimated 1.5 inches further away from Earth. And in the process, Earth's rotation is actually slowing down. What if one night the moon simply disappeared? Would we miss it?
As the closest celestial body to our planet, the moon exerts a gravitational pull that governs much of what happens here on Earth. Take the sea, for example. If you like surfing, you can thank the moon. When the moon's gravitational pull tugs on our spinning Earth, the oceans respond, giving us high tides in some parts of the world and low tides elsewhere. And while the wind gives the waves their energy, tides define their shape. The moon's gravitational attraction also keeps us at a stable 23.5 degree tilt relative to the sun, giving us 4 seasons and a livable climate. But what if that livable climate were to suddenly become unlivable? With the moon gone, its stabilizing effect on the Earth's rotation would go with it. Over millions of years, shifting tides and their pressure on the Earth's continents have slowed our planet's rotation, giving us 24-hour days. But without the moon's strong gravitational influence, the world would spin 3 to 4 times faster than it does now. Here comes the bad news. Rotating at that speed, we would experience winds up to 480 kilometers per hour. Birds and insects would have no chance of survival. The luckiest land-based organisms would either be deeply rooted plants or very short, very stout animals. Most of our marine life would be wiped out, since sea creatures that rely on ocean currents for survival would lose the privilege of the ocean's pull. Currents help circulate vital nutrients from the ocean floor to the surface, while dragging oxygen-rich surface water deep into the sea. We'd still have tides, but now they'd be governed by the sun, and from a distance of 93 million miles away, they'd only be 1/3 as powerful. And with the moon suddenly out of the way, the oceans would rip towards the sun, causing catastrophic waves, killing thousands and submerging coastlines. At this point, we'd have to adjust to new ocean currents, which, circulating at a slower rate, would be heating up equatorial waters while turning polar waters frigid. These extreme differences would produce a similar effect on land as well, since ocean temperatures influence their regional climates. Along with the sun, Mars and other nearby planets could also claim a share of gravitational influence over our planet, pulling Earth in different directions and causing it to tilt with increased volatility. Earth's axial plane would vary some 10 degrees, causing dramatic shifts in seasons and rendering our climate uninhabitable. Most crops would die with the drastic temperature changes. We'd experience the worst ice ages known to man, as huge glaciers from the North and South Poles would encroach upon the Earth, covering everything except perhaps a small band across the equator.
But none of this compares to the biggest change that we would have coming over the next millennia. Right now, Earth tilts on an axis at 23.5 degrees, mostly due to Moon's gravity. If the Moon disappeared, Earth's axis would wobble between anywhere from 10 to 45 degrees. Some experts estimate that Jupiter could help keep Earth's tilt from reeling completely out of control. But even just an extra 10-degree tilt could wreak havoc on the climate and seasons. In the past, Earth's tilt has changed by about 1 to 2 degrees, which scientists think could have caused ice ages in the past. It's hard to know what a 10-degree or 45-degree tilt would do, but probably nothing good for most life on Earth.
How can a slight change in its axial tilt make the planet uninhabitable? Here's what would happen if the Earth's axis was tilted by 90 degrees. Only 2 planets in the solar system lie on their sides, Uranus and the dwarf planet Pluto. Now, if something took the Earth off its stand, the blue planet would have no chance of developing any complex life on its surface. But let's start at the beginning. This axial tilt, or obliquity, is what drives the seasons here on Earth. Before the collision that created the Moon, the Earth's axis was slowly wobbling around, somewhere between 0 and 85 degrees. Then, our newly formed Moon stabilized it. But if that collision happened at a different time, things would have turned out very different here on Earth. It would be a strange new world. As the Earth made its way through orbit, its poles would be pointing straight towards the sun. One hemisphere would be shrouded in darkness for 6 months straight, while the other would be getting cooked by the blazing sunlight. One day on Earth would last a whole year. At the North Pole, the daytime temperatures would rise to a broiling 50 degrees. A day at the South Pole would be even worse. Because the South Pole would be located away from climate-controlling ocean currents, it would heat up to an almost boiling 80 degrees. The poles would soak up so much heat from the sun that they wouldn't even freeze during the 6-month-long night. You wouldn't recognize the steaming equatorial tropics. With a 90-degree axial tilt, part of the equator would stay encased in ice all year round. At some point in this Earth's existence, our continents would get clumped together around one of the poles. Inland temperatures in the daytime would get truly hellish, reaching the boiling temperature of water. Clouds could help the situation and not let all the water vapor off the planet, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't stick around that long. So you see, simply orbiting a star in the habitable zone doesn't mean that a planet is actually capable of sustaining life. We're the lucky ones living here on Earth. The next time you look up at the sky, be glad it's there. Sleep soundly tonight, surf's up in the morning.